Alright, welcome back to the Supercoach NFL channel. In this video, we're going to look at the tight ends for the 2025 NRL Supercoach season and put them on our tier ranks, or tier list, sorry. So we've got the 5 categories: lock, pick for good picks, pods for some differential type picks, super pods for if you're feeling real spicy, and avoids. Although I don't know if I'll explicitly put too many on the avoids. Um, I guess given there's not so many, we could probably go through team by team. So there could end up being quite a few on the avoid list. But we'll start with Trey McBride at the Cardinals, and as far as the lead options go, he's up there. So I'm happy to put him as a lock. Um, Not that I've had him in any of my preseason teams, and I don't think he'll start. But you can do a lot worse than put McBride in your team. That's not a reflection on his ability. It's more the reflection on the tactics that I've landed on at the moment. And I guess there's a few elite options that you could potentially look at. Kyle Pitts, I think a lot of people would put him in a void. You know, I'm always interested to see how he goes. Super hyped up out of college, but just never has quite been able to fulfill a potential. But maybe with Michael Penix under the centre now, he might feature a bit more. Remains to be seen. Mark Andrews has been a pretty good option in the past, so we'll give him the credit he's due and put him as a pod. Isaiah Likely caught fire early last year when Andrews was out, but I think he's an avoid. Andrews is the guy there. Dalton Kincaid, so I'm going to put him as a good pick. So I did pick him up in my redraft league. Um, Someone sniped Tyler Warren from me, so I had to go elsewhere, and didn't really think too much about Kincaid. Just picked him because I thought Josh Allen might throw to him, but did see something that Josh Allen said in preseason that when he was reviewing the tape, he clearly missed Kincaid on about 4 different occasions where he was wide open for a touchdown pass. So suggests to me that maybe he's going to get targeted a bit more this year in the red zone, which at his price I think makes him a really juicy option. Sanders at Carolina, so I'll putting him as a pod just on price. He's only about 5 mil, but obviously Carolina is on the up in terms of their offense, so he might go okay. It's one of those ones I don't know that much about him, to be perfectly honest, but I think there is a potential for a bit of value there. Colson Loveland, I'm going to put him as a pod as well. So he was like, start of the season, or when NFL Supercoach opened, I locked him in my team. I was like, yep, 2 cheapy tight ends. It's going to be great. But, him and Cole Kmet are job sharing a bit. So I'll put Kmet in the avoids for that reason. Um, but yeah, I think Loveland will get more sort of targets out of the 2 tight ends, but it's just how often will he be out on the field if they're sharing the role. So I think there's value in the pick. He will make some money, but I think there's better value options going around. Mike Gesicki, um, super pod, you know, he's the starting tight end, so it's probably a bit disrespectful to put him as an avoid, but not the biggest fan. In Joku, I'll put him as a pretty good pod. You know, he does have the ability to score well. Obviously, um, not in the strongest team, but that also means that he does stand out as an option for targets. Jake Ferguson, super pod. Jake with Dak thrown to him. If Dak's injured, he becomes an avoid. Evan Ingram's sort of one who's always flown under the radar for me, but I think at Denver he's probably super pod at best. Sam Laporta, I think because he's a bit cheaper, I'm happy to put him as a pick. Um, had an awesome rookie season, then sort of dipped last year, um, but potential to bounce back this year. So on that, I'll put him as a pick. Tucker Craft, I'll put him as a high end super pod. I just think there's probably some better picks in the pod sort of territory, um, but I could understand why people would want to go there. Dalton Schultz, super pod. Tyler Warren, get him up there. Lock, probably the tight end cheapie of the year. Looks to be, easily tight end one there at Indianapolis. Um, Not a lot in terms of receiving options there either. So, he does profile a bit like Brock Bowers in that sense. Strange. So, at the cheap price, he's sort of on that Sanders level of pod. Um, Evan Ingram was previously the tight end one there at Jacksonville and got a fair amount of the ball. So there is potential for Strange to make a bit of money. Travis Kelsey, I think on the decline, so I'm going to have to put him as super pod, unfortunately. The great man. Brock Bowers, so I think I'm going to put him as a pick, which is a bit controversial given that he's been in my team pretty much all preseason. I'm pretty sure he was the one I locked in at the start with the two cheapies. I then went to George Kittle for a bit, but Michael Myers seems to be getting a lot of game time there at the Raiders. So, um, and also they've brought in Amari Cooper as another pass catching option. So I don't think Brock Bowers is the lock that we had him earlier in the preseason. Still think he's a great pick. If you want to start with him, I wouldn't begrudge you. I hope he does go well, just as a fan of his in general. But I think he's not in that elite conversation at the moment. So at LA, you've got Disley and Conklin, sort of like a 1-2 punch. So might be the first ones where I put as an avoid. Again, the Chargers don't throw the ball a lot. Um, so, and if they're sharing the role at tight end, there's just not enough production. Higby's probably another one. He and Parkinson do chop out a bit, but probably a little bit more target share for Higby, so we'll put him at super pod. Johnny Smith's actually gone to Pittsburgh, so this isn't correct, even though it is 25 26. Um, but because he is gone to Pittsburgh and has to share with Fryermuth, don't know how that's going to go. So I'll put both as super pods, but realistically, probably both avoids because they'll eat into each other's workload. Um, Hunter Henry, nothing outstanding. Maybe a super pod at best. Um, Johnson, I can't think of his first name, sorry, from New England Super Pod. And Taysom Hill comes up every year. He'll have one or two games where he goes massive, and everyone will trade him in, and then look to trade him out in 2 weeks' time. So he's a absolute special for the avoid. Johnson from the Giants, don't know much about him to be honest, so I'll throw him in as a super pod. Taylor is an interesting pod. He's only, I think, 4 million, so rookie type price, but looks like he is the number one tight end there at the Jets. I've actually probably got him above Loveland at that cheapy price point. So if you did want to do two cheapies at tight end, Tyler Warren, yes, I'd put Taylor on the bench over Loveland as things stand. But again, doesn't have the best quarterback thrown to him. Hasn't really done it before, so it is a risky one there. Um, hang on, I've missed TJ Hawkinson somehow. Get him up here in the pick. So this is mostly based on value. Um, he had injuries last year, which sort of limited his production. But from all accounts, he's fit and healthy to go. There is also question marks around Jefferson. Jordan Addison suspended. So, he potentially gets a lot of volume to start the season. So he could be one to watch in the beginning of this season. Um, so now where was I up to? Dallas Goddard, probably put him as a pod, a bit below Andrews probably. Not an elite option by any stretch, but definitely not the worst shout um, at tight end. Again, probably just a victim of so much competition for targets there with Philly's elite offense. So we've talked um, Pittsburgh already. George Kittle, I actually think he'll be tight end one for the season. So, you know, I think he's up there as an elite option. Um, yeah, that's probably enough. Noah Fant, super pod. Kate Otten, super pod. Chiga Quonquo, super pod. And Zach Ertz has done it a bit before, so we'll throw him in there too. So maybe a bit generous with some of these tight ends. Probably should have more in the avoid section. So I guess if we're going to be a bit harsher, I think Kasicki can go. Higby, Henry, the two Johnsons, Vant, Otten. Yeah, it's probably fair. So yeah, so that's probably slightly more accurate in terms of tight ends. So we'll wrap the video up there. As always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the NFL content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.